everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of UHS Presents. I'm your host, Sarah. Lori will not be joining us tonight because she's got a lot of stuff to do, and that's a good thing, I guess, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and bring on the people you've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Caston.
Hello.
Hi.
I usually, so like when we do our intro stuff, I have like Lori's like, what's the UHS news, right?
I was going to ask you that question so you could do it, since Lori wasn't here to do it. So Sarah, what do we have new in UHS news?
And that's a fun little question because I don't know. I don't think there is that much new stuff. Like we're closing in on being able to ship out the surgeon here.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, we're still tooling along on the sundering. I don't keep up with I get the stuff, they tell me what to do and I do the stuff and then I don't ask any more questions. So I try, because I have enough other things that I have to worry about that I don't want to have to know more. Yeah. So is that bad? I don't know if that's bad, but yeah, like nothing like life-changing is happening right this second, but all of our stuff is still going. Like all the things that we said last week that are that was news continues to move in a forward direction.
It's all lateral move.
Yes, exactly.
Progress is being made.
Yeah. It's all like just go back and watch last week's episode and then you'll know what basically we're doing for this week. So, and it'll all it's just like that plus a week. That's what's going on. So, and today, obviously, because Matt's here, we're talking about monsters.
And one in particular, this that right
that
on my left boob.
That boob.
The one on my left boob.
I have a mono
Nice.
boob. I have a mono boob one.
Nice.
And I have it on my hat.
Yeah.
Oh,
So.
does it happen in the movie?
Yeah.
Oh. Cool.
Yeah, that's the one. I think this is a bootleg. I don't think this is official, but it's all right.
And what movie is it?
Yeah.
I guess that's my cue.
Go for it.
So this was actually kind of an impromptu Matt's Monster Movie Monday because, well, I was thinking we might do something for Godzilla's birthday, and originally my plan was we were going to watch the original Godzilla because you and Lori hadn't seen it. Caston's only seen it the one time.
Really good.
Yeah, so I thought it would be fun, but then I saw that they were doing the screenings of Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, the 2002 Godzilla film, and then in our group chat, I saw that you and Jeff got tickets to go see it. Jeff was like over there getting tickets surreptitiously.
Oh my God. Okay, so I was very sure that we were not going to have any, because like it's a niche. And I feel like it's partly Toho's fault that it's a niche here, because like if they would do a little more releasing here, then I think that people would there would be more fans. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out my ass here, but I was just very sure that we weren't going to have anything that was closer than a 4-hour drive. But it was only like we managed to find some that was in a city that was only an hour drive away. So we kind of made an afternoon of it. We went and we had Indian food, and we went to I made Jeffrey go to the aquarium store because I'm an aquarium nerd. So I made him go there with me, and
wonderful.
And yeah, and then we went to the movie theater, and they had the good seats with the kicks, the footrest.
Yeah,
no heated seats, so that kind of was, no refillable popcorn, which I realize is only really an issue for us when we take the kids, my nephews and nieces. Like they will decimate one of those massive buckets of popcorn. So it turned out to be not a thing. But at the time I was like, well, shit, what are we gonna do? And then I realized, we don't have 2 bottomless pit teenagers with us, and we don't need to worry about that. So,
do they call you Aunt Sarah?
Not really. When they're referring to me to other people, but like to my face, now they just call me Sarah.
I wish my niece would. She's constantly Aunt Caston. I'm like, you don't have to say the aunt bit.
I'm Uncle Matt to both of my nephews and all of their little cousins and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I'm just really glad you guys on your own initiative. I mean, I told y'all about it in the group chat, I think, and I was just like, hey, it was happening. And then I didn't really think anything of it. And then I found out y'all were going to go do it, and I thought, well, we're going to go do it because a friend of mine here in Austin, like, got a group of tickets together and was like, hey, Matt, you want to come see the movie? And I'm like, yeah, get like 5 or 6 tickets because there's going to be people who are going to want to go with us.
Right.
And there's like, working for Matt, I've like added a lot of his friends from social media onto my social media, and because meeting them at cons and stuff, my feed was full of people in theaters seeing that movie, and it was all about the same time on the same day, and it was just kind of a really cool, you know, all these very different people, doing this shared experience.
Yeah, when we went, we didn't have a group of kaiju nerds that we went with. It was just us. But when we got there, we found that we were not the only people from our town who had ventured to this other town because there was nothing. And I met so many people that were there for Godzilla. And this was my very first experience. I met so many Matt Frank fans in the wild. Like, there were so many people who knew who you were and were just crazy about your work. And then I was having a conversation with some of the people that we were in line, kind of, you know, rummaging or roaming forward together in line to get our tickets punched and to get our beverages and stuff. And so we were chatting, and I was like, oh yeah, my friend Matt got us into this, and so now we're coming because my friend Matt. And then I don't exactly know what happened there, but somehow ended up, they figured out from my context clues that the Matt that I was talking about, they're like, oh, you've met Matt Frank, like the guy, and he does the Ultraman, and I was like, he does lots of stuff, and I really only know a little bit of it. And most of it is the stuff that he does when he works with our team, and they were like, wait a minute, you know Matt Frank?
Oh my god, it's so weird. I love it though.
Yeah, and I explained to Matt that I met Matt. I met you before I knew that you were like, that you had any kind of following. I had no idea.
No idea.
And so like I met you as an artist friend. You know, like you were just another guy doing the same shit that I'm doing, trying to make comic books that are good and that trying to get people to read them, right?
Right.
And then after the fact, learned out that you kind of have you're a little famous, man. And so it's just. Yeah, and it's just like so weird because I like, they were like just like doing that fangirl thing, you know, and I was like, I was like, yeah, no, he's just a dude. Guy. He's a friend of mine. It's so funny. So it was, and I met them. I met a couple, and I name dropped Miss Medusa because Miss Medusa was still happening. Yeah, we still had a few hours left on that. So I was like, yeah, Matt's actually, we're kickstarting a book right now that Matt is an artist on, and so we got a couple pledges from that. I met a guy who's actually making a horror movie.
Ooh.
Yeah, I asked him to send me his stuff, so I'm gonna jump in here quick and see if because he did. Yes, he did. It's called Are You Dead Yet? And it's called I know exactly dick about horror movies. I'm really not a horror movie person. I am more of a suspenseful or supernatural movie person, not like a gory, scary chop 'em up movie. Mm-hmm. I'm not that. I don't do those as a general rule, but I don't have anything against them. So so I was like, yeah, send me your little elevator pitch. And so this says, when a group of thrill seekers venture into supposedly haunted woods, they must fight to survive against a maniac with a mallet and a taste for blood. So I was like, that sounds like something that the horror fans that I know are gonna probably enjoy.
Yeah.
A lot of the boxes.
And they've got an Indiegogo thing happening right now. So I'll drop that in the comments for y'all if you're interested in taking a bigger look at it. Like, I'll put the Indiegogo link in the comments. But I personally, I am gonna throw a few bucks at them just because dude, you can't turn off my lights.
Actually, it looked kind of nice. It made you pop.
Just look a little spooky. So yeah, I'm gonna throw a few bucks because I'm like, I'm gonna support a local person making a movie here. So, but yeah, like, if you're into horror movies, you guys can tell me if you think it's good and check it out in the link that I'm gonna put here.
Yeah.
Before we go any farther, Matthew Alzamora. Did I say it right? I hope I said it right. He's here. Katie's here. Hey, Katie. Radstar Father said that we have an intro jump scare. I don't know if it's an intro jump scare because I'm so used to it now that I just it's very loud, and I used to warn everybody, but we kind of seem to be cycling in the same guests these days. Like, we don't have anybody super new, so like, y'all should be prepared for the very loud intro. Not you, Red Star Father. I mean our guests. Because I'm always like, turn down your volume when the music you're gonna.
It's a lot.
Let's see who else is here. Toku Society says this will be fun. Tempest Law is here. Says, glad you guys are talking about Godzilla. Radstar Father says, even though it's no longer Godzilla Day, y'all should 100% watch Gojira. No special occasion needed to see that. I mean, it's going to happen eventually.
There was a YouTube 24-hour marathon that was doing Godzilla movies, and he just had it on the background most of yesterday while he was working.
Yeah, there was a 72-hour Godzilla marathon, although I think they might have just been playing the same 3 or 4 Heisei movies over and over again, but whatever. Radstar Father. It was so funny because she posted a list of the Godzilla movies that she had seen and the ones that she hadn't seen and the ones she owned, and I was just like, all right, I see that most of these are Showa era films, and Matt needs to correct that. So I'm trying to see if I have. I'm seeing like, what do I have in my hard drive I can just throw at you, and then like, what do I have that's in my collection I can just throw at you that I have extras of.
So Radstar, IM me, DM me, email me.
Oh, we're already.
You already got the address?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny because I'm just like, I see somebody who's like, you're a Godzilla fan, but you haven't seen this movie or this movie or this movie or this movie. So, anyway.
At least you're not one of those gatekeeping asshole fans. You're not. You're like, you haven't seen this movie and this movie, this movie. Here, let me give you all these movies. Rather than, you're not a real fan if you haven't seen all those.
It's like
let people enjoy things.
Help onboard people. Like, just, I mean, and for the most part, there are, in my experience, granted my experience is different from a lot of other people's, but in my experience, there aren't that many gatekeeping Godzilla fans because a lot of us are so eager to share it. Let me finish. A lot of us are so eager
I have a story
to share the experience. That's not to say it doesn't happen, especially if you're a newbie and you come in with a strong observation or a strong opinion. All
right. That's okay.
Yeah,
you gotta be careful when you stepping into a new person stepping into any fandom. You gotta be careful about what you say.
I had waited over a year before saying anything, and some people just didn't agree with my psychological assessment of why a certain group of people tend to enjoy these types of movies.
It's just, there's nothing wrong with the simple analysis that a lot of these are power fantasies, and some of the more toxic members of the fandom take that too far. And there's nothing wrong with addressing that while also acknowledging that there's just as many people in the fandom who don't find them power fantasies. They find them as pure fantasy, or they like the narrative, or they like the thematic elements. They just like the effects.
Or like you, the dudes in rubber suits.
Yeah, I was about to say I want
a little weird taken out of context.
Every dude should wear a latex. Every time.
We're going in different directions. Anyway. But
okay.
I don't know where we're going.
Well, I have, there's more comments rolling in. Yep. Schultz Xenoblade said, big fan of the popcorn bucket in the background.
Oh, they know.
You told us about that. That's so cool.
Here, I'll hold him so you don't knock him over.
They're a little precarious. I have a whole ramshackle setup here for the Kaiju Lounge, as I call it. But so this is a Godzilla versus Evangelion popcorn bucket from Universal Studios Osaka, and you pop the head open and it's a popcorn bucket.
Nice.
No, and then it's like its jaw moves and it's shockingly well made. and it's actually got a lot of nice little details, and it's the Ava Unit 1 colors. And yeah, I don't care to say how expensive this was.
Did it at least come with free popcorn refills?
Gross. Also, no.
For life.
Well, I didn't buy it at Universal Osaka.
Oh, you got it off of eBay or something,
Yeah,
didn't you?
well, because it got put at Universal Osaka like a few months after I had been there. Because they had a whole Godzilla versus Evangelion ride that they did, which is more like a 4D motion simulator. And they even made like an original version of King Ghidorah to fight Shin Godzilla, and it was a whole thing. And I was like, and I remembered ordering that because my friend Rebecca and we're both kind of theme park nerds, but she's a way bigger theme park nerd than I am. And she was like, oh my God, the Evangelion, they had an Evangelion churro holder from Osaka, from Universal Studios Osaka, and it's shaped like the, well, it kind of looks like a dildo, but it's supposed to be the plug that goes inside of the Ava that the pilot sits in, and it was a churro holder.
So it wasn't a dildo as so much as a plug, you say?
I'm just not gonna say anything else.
Sarah's face.
Live stream over, life over.
Let's just say it's a good thing we're not monetized yet. We'd be
Anyway.
demonetized now. Yeah, Rad Starfather says, I'll for sure watch them once I'm finished with my Godzilla reference Google Drive. I'll probably watch some Millennium Era movies tomorrow, and then watch some Showa.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rad Starfather also said, thanks again, Matt.
Yay.
And Shulk Xenoblade said the aftermarket on that is nuts. It's awesome though.
Yeah, it's a lot of this exclusive theme park stuff is always so damn expensive.
It's basically part of your target account. Like, I'm sure people watching have seen Matt's office. It's literally 1, 2, 3 out of 4 walls, basically, just solid toys.
I don't care for your tone.
That's
Hey, speaking of segues, everybody watching, y'all probably noticed on the thumbnail it said free shit. You're gonna win. We might win some free shit. Well, Matt has graciously donated the free shit that you're going to be potentially winning tonight. Look at that, right?
Yeah,
okay. There are rules though. If you want to win the free shit,
slowly,
you have to. Okay, I'm putting a banner, a ticker down at the bottom here on how you win. You need to like the video, and you need to be subscribed to our channel, and that's like the Agents of Geekdom channel, because I mean, I appreciate that you, and I will hope that you are subscribed to UH Studios YouTube as well, because you'll find good stuff on both channels. However, for this live giveaway, you have to be watching live, you have to you have to comment on the stream, so make sure you do all those things. And subscribe, which I didn't put subscribe, so I'll give you that one if you didn't subscribe to the channel. But we'd really like it if you did. So,
and this is a medium, a male medium. So this is the front of the sweater, and then the back, the hoodie. Yes, sorry, thank you.
Am I allowed to enter any of these?
I already send you free stuff.
No, I send it. You just gave it to me too.
Yeah, but it's still mine, and I don't pay for it.
No,
anyway.
Okay, so yeah. Oh, and let's see, John Westoff just showed up. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, John.
Hi, John.
So yeah, that's the rules. And stick around here, and because Katie's here, and I know Katie is not in the U.S. Caston, you had rules on non-U.S. potential winners that we want to make sure y'all know right off the head.
Yeah, if you do win one of them, I am more than happy to send it to you. But we'll cover $10 of shipping. Anything over $10, you just ship in for that, because it'd be 20-ish, 30-ish bucks max, depending on what you win. But yeah, so anybody outside of the U.S., that includes Canada, because it is more expensive, in Mexico, anything, all shipping over $10, you can pay us for that, and I'll get it out to you tomorrow if we get all the addresses and stuff tonight.
Yes, and that's we'll take care of that address crap when we actually drop names. So, okay, so obviously the movie was Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla.
Yes.
Matt, do you have a synopsis for us?
Yeah, I'll try to. I'll give the cliff notes.
Okay.
I've been working on getting it down. So this is yet another kind of reset to the continuity and again, this movie is from 2002. Basically, Japan is sick of Godzilla. They're sick of kaiju, and they decide that they're going to create a super weapon to defend the country, but they're building it out of the skeletal remains of the original Godzilla, who was killed in 1954 by the oxygen destroyer. And then they create Kiryu, or Mechagodzilla, as it's sort of referred to almost as a joke. But its official name is Kiryu, and it's which means steel dragon. And they just set it up to where if Godzilla comes back, they're gonna throw this thing at him. The problem, though, is that Kiryu might have a fatal flaw built into it, in that it has a DNA-based computer, and somehow that results in it having might be semi-conscious, semi-sentient, and a lot of this is kind of framed around the journey of a young officer named Akane, who
she's the driver.
She is the pilot of Mechagodzilla and of Kiryu, and she is dealing with her own inner turmoil because she feels responsible for getting a bunch of her fellow officers killed by Godzilla during a previous attack. And so now she's just like, well, I guess being the pilot of Mechagodzilla is my chance to prove myself, but, there's some other emotional shenaniganery going on, but that's the long and the short of it.
There we go. Okay, Radstar Father says, oh, so this isn't one whole ordeal, but rather being given away individually. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and give one piece to one person.
Three different people get to win.
Yeah, and then when you won, I'm taking your name off the wheel, so you can only win one.
Yeah, you win one thing, and you get only one thing.
And Shulk Xenoblade said, appreciate the opportunity for the giveaway. Looking forward to the discussion. And Radstar Father said, ditto. So let's start discussing.
All right. And first of all, I did want to point out that we're all themed Mechagodzilla adjacent, including Sarah's sparkly blouse and eye makeup.
Yes, I tried something completely different before, but it didn't work out, so I just kind of cleaned the slate and then started over again with just a lightly themed makeup look that I thought turned out okay. I'm not really great at makeup, but it turned out okay, so I'm like, this'll do.
Yeah, I mean, and for us,
I don't have a Godzilla cup to drink out of, though, so it's for us today.
Well, you can just call it Mechagodzilla.
Yeah.
That works. That works for me.
Again, this one was kind of an impromptu Mass Monster Movie Monday, because Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla wasn't exactly on the list for movies for us to watch. Not because it's bad or whatever. It's just, of the thousands upon thousands of Godzilla movies, it's one of the ones that's kind of like, it's cool, it's fun, it's a fun time, but it's also just kind of like weird. Oh,
Mike Dolan said, because using the bones of a dead monster as the core of an unstoppable super weapon couldn't possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
Men's folly.
Yeah. I mean, I say this with nothing but love, but it is kind of a mid-tier Godzilla movie, It's not like a GMK or a Shin Godzilla.
Actually works out really well for me for the future, because I thought this movie was fucking crazy.
Oh,
I loved it, and there was one point we'll get to. I don't want to jump into that too early, but there was a point at which I just lost my shit and started laughing hysterically in the theater, and I'm pretty sure I pissed off some of the hardcore fans that were there, because I couldn't stop, and I was like squeaking, and I could hear it echoing back at me. I tried so hard to stop it. But I was just like, it was so amped up. Like, I was like, have you ever played with your cat or dog too much, and then they just get so psycho, and then they start running around or biting you or stuff? Like, I was like, that was me. Only the biting and the running was the squeaky laugh.
That's really fun.
You had the laugh zoomies.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
I will admit, like, as a fan, sometimes it is a little obnoxious when you're watching a Godzilla movie in a public screening, and there's a certain type of audience member that starts laughing at things that are like not really supposed to be funny, and and it's just, but again, it's hard to tell why someone is laughing. Like, for example, I go to see Godzilla movies in the theater whenever I can, whenever they have screenings and stuff. And there are certain moments where it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, this is kind of goofy, and there's a particular line delivery or or just a weird plot point where it's like, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But us fans are so inured to it that we just kind of brush past it in a lot of cases. It's okay, Matt. You can say G-Fest. Okay, honestly, at G-Fest, that's less. What's more common at G-Fest are people cheering and clapping for anytime Godzilla does anything, like, or specific actors. I mean, it makes sense if it's like.
That sounds a little bit like Marvel movies.
It can be.
Or Star Wars, like people clapped when the opening credits started up on the first of the most recent set of Star Wars films.
I remember going to see, just as a quick interjection, I remember going to see Rise of Skywalker, and the people I was with, one of them literally went, ugh, when the just the ba ba da 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 started up, because they were already so completely over the whole thing just before the movie even started. But anyway, yeah, I mean, our theater was, there were a couple of chuckles. We also didn't have like a super big.
Yeah, I was
theater.
going to ask you, Sarah, how many folks were in yours? We only had, I'd say, 40% of the theater filled.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, like I was thinking like roughly half. It wasn't, and it was a smaller theater, but like there was a surprising number. I really did not. I genuinely just didn't know what to expect as far as how many people would be there. So, and it was funny to even have met anybody who had traveled from the same town as we did to go see the movie. Like that was funny. But yeah, I was like, that was the closest place. But yeah, like we had a decent crowd, I thought.
Well, I mean, when people show up for Godzilla movies, they show up. Like, I remember last year they had a couple of screenings at the Alamo Draft House for Godzilla. Oh, nice. Show up Xenoblade's theater is nearly sold out. Yeah, we had a couple of screenings at the Alamo Draft House for there were several screenings, several different screenings. Like we did the Godzilla 54. You and I did the Godzilla 54 one, which was
the first one.
We had a pretty full theater.
Yeah, that was really fun. It was a larger theater too.
Yeah, and then there was the 60-70%. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then there were also screenings of Godzilla, the Return of Godzilla, and Godzilla vs. Biollante. They had a double feature. Excuse me. And I went with my friend Annabelle, and that was also a full theater for both movies. And we got shushed at one point because we kept giggling just at inside jokes, like stuff from the fandom, because Annabelle's a huge Godzilla fan too. So anyway, but yeah, like, okay, well, you said that you thought the movie was crazy and you really enjoyed it. I mean, tell me about some things about it. Tell me about your experience.
I like that they didn't. Okay, so I'm going to contradict myself here a little bit later, but I like that they didn't spend a ton of time trying to develop the human relationship in the movie. Like we weren't supposed, like we were supposed to feel some kind of something towards the main characters, but like they were not real. They were the main human characters. They were not the main characters. And so I enjoyed that, but then to contradict myself, they shoehorned in that like secondary little love thing, and I was like, they didn't. If they were gonna do that, they should have developed it more. They should have either not done it at all or developed it a little more, because it felt very forced in there. So yeah, but I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I just thought that it was like you should have either made it better or just cut it altogether. It didn't need to be there, honestly. We came to see big monsters fighting.
Personally, I didn't care for it at all, and I wish they would have left it out entirely, because it does this this whole stereotype of a single dad with a child mom shopping. Like when you have a conversation with her about, oh, hey, do you want kids? Like there was no, hey, I'm attracted to you, or I like you, or we have a lot in common. It was just, hey, I need a mom for my kid. Like, and Matt didn't disagree with me a little bit on it, but I'm like, that's there's way more things to be in a relationship, reasons to be in a relationship with someone other than shopping around for a mom. And it seemed like to me that they had a pretty significant age difference. I would put him in his late 30s and her in her, I don't know, early mid-ish 20s or something.
Yeah, I thought that like he looked like he appeared like he was supposed to be a good 20 years older than her. And from a feminist standpoint, why the fuck did they have to throw a love interest in for the woman just because she's a strong woman? And thankfully they didn't really make her, they didn't fall in love, so I guess there was that, and that was fun. But like it just felt like it just didn't need to be there. It just felt like extra fluff that they tried to throw in to appeal to Western viewers, because we always got to have our goddamn love sequences in there, our love storylines.
You can't have a strong woman that isn't also in love with a man or in a relationship of some sort. She can't just be on her own.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing is like, the only reason I disagreed was purely because it felt like it was mostly played for laughs. And
yes,
like from my perspective,
I did gather that too.
I'm coming at it from a very specific perspective, so it's completely valid to see that and just be tired by it, because like, oh, that's a tiresome thing that a lot of women and a lot of feminine presenting people have to constantly deal with. So like, again, this is purely my perspective, but it felt like the movie was kind of laughing at him more than, and the movie in a kind of a way, because she never really acknowledges it until like the very end, when it's still kind of played as a joke. But that to me, honestly, I forgot that she acknowledged it at the very end. I thought it would have been stronger if she never acknowledged it, and then it would have the joke would have been consistent, because I felt like the joke was like, man, she's out of your league, bro. Like, first, which I don't really like that phrase, but it kind of felt like the way they were presenting it. But I don't know, like, I like that she had more of a connection with Sarah, with the little girl, than she did with the scientist, with the dad, who I can't remember his name, but I know Sarah is the little girl, ironically, and Akane.
That did not go unnoticed by me.
Yeah,
of course not.
Yeah, which it is funny, because I have to wonder, like, if Sarah is, or Sara, or however you pronounce it, really is a Japanese name in any capacity, or if it actually is more of an international name that they chose. But I don't know. It's neither here nor there. But it's so funny, because so many Japanese movies and TV shows and stuff, they want to have their cake and eat it too when it comes to like feminism and kind of being progressive, but then also like kind of falling back on these old
That's
things.
what I was going to interject.
Yeah.
It was so great to see a female lead, a female badass, a female fighter amongst all the seas of males. And yet they almost got there. But when they put in that relationship aspect of it, like, to me, that felt like it just undid all of that progress they did, when they should have just left it at her having a friendship with the little girl.
I felt they again, I felt like if they had, honestly, if they'd gone in the opposite direction with it again, I mean, we'll get off of the subject, I swear, guys, but I feel like that had they gone in the opposite direction and made it into more of a joke, and then maybe had the two of them kind of build a friendship off of that maybe would have been fun. But I mean, it's like, for example, one of my favorite Ultraman series. There's always the the monster fighting unit in Ultraman, and I think there's only one of the Ultra series where they have a female commander, and she's like this, she's extremely competent, and she is just no nonsense, and she's a great character. And I don't think she ever has any love interests. She has maybe a slight thing with the field commander, but anyway. And yet her uniform consists of these stiletto shoes that she walks around in. And I'm like, is that really necessary, guys? But you know, it's just it's one of those things where it's like you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
none of the main commanders would be wearing stilettos.
Yeah, so the first scene of the movie is the it takes place 3 years before the majority of the movie, right? And it's where we're seeing Godzilla come out and attack, and then we see the main character. What's her name again? I can't remember. her name.
Akane.
Something with an A, right? Yes,
Yeah,
Akane.
Akane.
It's unclear to me what she did. I have to watch it again, I guess. Like, it's unclear to me what happened that she, like, that was a fuck up on her part that caused the deaths of like 10 soldiers as she was as the 10 soldiers were trying to kill Godzilla with their laser weapon thingy, and they like something she did, everybody died except for her. What did they explain that and I just missed it?
So I've seen the movie enough times. I mean, I remember getting this movie I remember getting this movie on like a bootleg DVD when I was like in high school, because it hadn't been released on DVD in America yet. So what happened was the Maser cannon, and it is there. There is a YouTube video called Tribute to the Maser Tank that I recommend everybody watch because it's really fun, kind of because the Maser cannon is a legacy weapon in the Toho Godzilla universe. Like, it shows up in a bunch of stuff, and it's like it's peak anti-kaiju weaponry before you start getting to giant robots. But anyway, so she was the Maser tank operator, and they were trying to use it to fight Godzilla, and all it was doing was really kind of pissing him off.
Right.
And so she kind of turned the front unit of the Maser tank. She turns it, but that was right when this other Jeep unit was backing up, and they were going into reverse to try to retreat from Godzilla, and she was turning at the same time and did not see them coming. And then they collided with the tank, with the front unit, and that's what sent them rolling down the hill. Godzilla steps on it, and then he whips his tail and hits the Maser unit and just disables it. He doesn't kill any of them. But yeah, so even though it's really not really her fault, you know, it's the military, it's Japan.
I mean, shit happens. Like, you know, if whoever was backing up, if they would have, you know, seen her, they maybe could have just. It's just, it was an accident. It was an accident,
and I think that a lot of the more.
She's the one who lived, so she had to answer for it.
Well,
you were saying about in Japan, there's always got to be
somebody's got to take the fall,
yeah.
and that's kind of fairly common across the board, across cultures, but in Japan, it's more pronounced. In a lot of ways, like it's almost an expectation. Again, cultures are not a monolith, but I'm just saying. And
it's a big. I know it's a big stereotype, but as we know, like all stereotypes are rooted in some truth. But the Japanese and Chinese cultures, honor is a big deal. So I can imagine that responsibility is the flip side of the coin with that. Yeah. So maybe that has something to do with it too.
A little bit, like they were, you know, I mean, I'm just thinking about the incident with the USS Indianapolis, and which, you know, if anybody who's seen Jaws knows that story about, like, you know, when you go underwater, 300 came out, and you know, because it was this horrible naval disaster, where just absolutely terrible, and it was not the fault of the captain. The captain, in fact, saved a lot of lives after the fact. He still got railroaded by the United States government because they were looking for someone to blame. And they were also trying to distract from the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And it just, you know, people just get railroaded sometimes. And even then, she's still like, I imagine between scenes, she probably took the blame and accepted the blame because, again, it's just... you still feel responsible. And you know, and that kind of forms the core basis of her character.
Right.
her-
And as the only one who survived the conflict at that particular spot, I imagine I would have felt guilty too and felt like I deserved some punishment for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. It's honestly, I feel like that's the strongest part of the narrative because a lot of the other stuff in the movie is, while also fun and there's some really good ideas, there is some kind of half-bakedness going on as far as this movie goes, but we'll get into it.
Yeah, they never defined at all with the whole computer DNA stuff. They just kind of
brushed past that.
Yep.
Which, to be fair, has happened in quite a few movies that are big budget Hollywood. They just kind of, it's this thing, and gloss over why that's even fucking possible.
I mean, it's an interesting conceit because, they're trying. This is the third iteration of Mechagodzilla, technically the fourth if you want to get pedantic about it. But this is they were trying for a new angle with Mechagodzilla. They're honestly kind of going for an Evangelion angle because
was that not the first Mechagodzilla movie?
What, the one we watched?
Yeah.
No, the first Mechagodzilla was 1974.
That makes sense. I was looking up a synopsis. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not the story I saw.
Oh god. So there are 3 movies specifically titled Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, or Godzilla Tai Mechagodzilla.
So are they just known by their year,
They're either known by their year or they've retroactively given them titles to kind of separate them. Like there's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, which is the first one. Then there's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 from 1993. Then there's Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla. And
that's what we saw.
That's the one we saw.
Okay.
Because Tai, like, and in Japanese, they're all just called Godzilla Tai Mechagodzilla, and Tai just means versus or against. And it's dumb. It's not. It's just that it's that common problem of marketing a film where you're trying to give it a punchy title, and if you give it a weird subtitle or something, people are just gonna be confused. Like, I feel like that was one of the reasons why a lot of people were confused by Godzilla King of the Monsters back in 2019, because while it is a sequel to the 2014 movie, which is just called Godzilla, a lot of people, especially in America, were like, why would I see another God? I got it. Like, it's a Godzilla movie. I got it, even though it's a completely different movie and a completely different story. But anyway.
Why do we watch so many fucking Avengers movies? Come on.
It really is baffling, because I think a lot of the movies, a lot of monster movies, a lot of kaiju movies, I feel like are pretty much the same quality as just pick an Avengers movie, pick a Marvel movie, and like...
Mike says, wasn't there a Terror of Mechagodzilla as well? The one with the Titanosaurus and the Psychic Girl. There was a one with a Titanosaurus and a Psychic Girl, and they didn't put that one in the theater?
Terror of Mechagodzilla, but it's not called Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, so that's why I didn't include it. But Terror of Mechagodzilla was the one that came after Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, the original, in 1975. And that one is actually, I think, the only Godzilla movie to date that was written by a woman, that the script was written by a woman. And that one's pretty fun. That's a fun movie. It's very melodramatic.
Is that one on the list?
Are you saying women are dramatic?
No, I'm saying I like it. I like it more than because the first Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla is kind of cold and sterile. I mean, it's still silly, but it's still fun, but it more in a Saturday morning cartoon way, whereas Terror of Mechagodzilla is fun and like oh shit, we're going like Shakespeare levels of drama here with like, I'm a cyborg, you can't love me, and it's like, no, Katsura, you can't help Mechagodzilla destroy the world, and it's like, but she must because she's my daughter and also a robot. And
right, if that one's not on the list, it needs to be on the list.
We might have to come around to that one, especially because, again, if we're all intersectional feminists here. No, I don't know what that means. But I feel like that one does need to be on the list. Well, no, Mechagodzilla is controlled by... We're not talking about that movie. That's that
We're
is
going to be here well, aren't we? We haven't even gotten past the first scene yet.
Okay. So that's when they move past that scene, which, by the way, that opening scene is a banger. Like, the rain and the cinematography is so good. Really makes me wish we had better transfers for these movies.
Yeah, I really thought this movie was like from the late 70s, early 80s, and he's like, no, you had already graduated high school when this movie came out. It's just a bad
I knew you specifically said it was the 20-year anniversary of this one, and I was like, wow, does Japan have, like, are they behind us as far as, like, making movies? Because that doesn't seem right. But then, yeah, then you enlightened me that it was just bad transfer.
They definitely don't have the. I mean, let's put things in perspective. Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla came from the era of Godzilla movies where they were maybe spending $10 million per movie, and it's just because the Japanese film industry doesn't like to spend money, and Toho especially doesn't like to spend money, and and they just only have so much money to throw at cameras and film equipment and film stock, and again, a lot of these movies did not have great home video transfers. I mean, it's a little infuriating because you get a decent transfer of some of these movies, even movies from the 60s and 70s. You get a good transfer of one of them, and it's like a night and day difference. It changes your perspective on the film because you get to appreciate so much of the detail. I did know this. This, like, $10 million on a Godzilla movie is a lot, and $10 million on an American movie is like nothing. It's nothing.
I did know that, and I know that because we started doing this.
Yeah, now you know.
At some point in the past, you said, yeah, this is like they don't spend $300 million on a movie over there. No, which
I mean,
if you can get over the fact that it's not perfectly CGI'd to look exactly like reality, like, they're fun movies, so we don't really need to be spending that much on these movies. We really don't.
It's so funny to me that I hear, like, oh yeah, CGI for making something look super realistic, and I think to myself, like, yeah, but that's an actual video of an actual rubber suit that's actually in front of the camera, and I just feel like we're going to get in the weeds about what's realistic and what's, like, photorealistic when it's an actual photo of an actual thing, and I just get pedantic about that.
Next time we all have some time and we aren't watching a Godzilla movie, we can just do a show, like, nitpicking why CGI does not have to be as prevalent as it is. But Brad Starfather says, so there's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Terror of Mechagodzilla, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, and Tokyo SOS. The only one doesn't mention the Mecha Man in the title.
Yeah, well, Tokyo SOS, again, Godzilla Tokyo SOS, that's the one that comes after this movie, and it's a direct sequel. But Tokyo SOS, that's just the American title. The Japanese title is Godzilla, Mothra, Mechagodzilla, Tokyo SOS. So
there you go.
And the American distributors are like, we're not doing that. We're just do Tokyo SOS. It's fine.
Americans don't have that kind of attention span.
Well, Japanese titles are like that sometimes.
Yes, that's oh my gosh, so many misspellings and typos and just, like, straight up, some of it was like it was nonsense, and you had to actually kind of pay attention to the words on that they were printing that said what they were saying and then what was actually happening. That wasn't super terrible, but yeah, the misspellings were kind of like the anal retentive grammar Nazi in me was like, please stop spelling troops with a U. It's the wrong word.
It's these little things. It's little things that I think are just quality of life issues that I wish there was I wish that the people making the decisions could see the financial incentive in just presenting these movies better, because
it just makes it look less professional.
Yeah, it makes them feel less good and makes them feel it's just, and these movies just also, like, my favorite Godzilla movie is GMK, the first one we watched as part of the series, and the American Blu-ray transfers for this movie, it looks like crap, and the subtitles are garbage. I mean, I managed to find us some decent versions to watch, but like again, and like there are subtitles that are just wrong, that are just incorrect, and completely change the meaning of a scene, and I hate that. Anyway, we get past the opening scene, and then it's like you start the process of creating Mechagodzilla, creating Kiryu.
They had said, and I like that they threw in clips of some of the
Mothra.
previous movies. Like there was one that I was like,
I saw that.
and it was I think was there a clip of GMK in there as well?
No.
I know Mothra. I was like, I recognize that one, but and then they said there was a weapon, but the guy who invented the weapon took his secret to the grave, and so now we have to come up with something totally new, and that's where this robot DNA thing comes in, right? They said we can take the robot from the Godzilla bones, we can take the DNA from the Godzilla bones and put it into a robot, and ta-da! We have something that can defeat Godzilla, and they completely do not explain that at fucking all. Like, there is just, they're just like, yeah, and everybody else is like, oh yeah, we could totally do that, and I'm like, what?
It was kind of in vogue at the time to like DNA computers were kind of all the rage at the time. And so that's why they were in like the early 2000s. That's where they were like, oh, we'll make a Mechagodzilla with a computer based off of Godzilla's DNA and use Godzilla's bones as like the structure for Kiryu, which...
But I don't see how it translated at all, because all of the weapons on Mechagodzilla, they could have just thrown those on a tank. Like, why do they need to build a giant robot?
There is a certain level of suspension of disbelief where it's like, look, if you don't have a giant robot, then you don't have a giant robot to fight the lizard. Like, it's a sort of thing that makes me want to burn people's houses down when they come at me about Pacific Rim, where it's like, well, why did they make robots? Why did they just throw nukes and blah, 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 blah? It's like, because then the movie wouldn't happen. The movie has to happen at a certain point. And I understand that, like, you can, there's only, there's certain audience members where your suspension of disbelief only goes so far, but it's nice to kind of throw in a little more. Like, for example, as a fan, I rationalize that, oh yeah, it would make sense they build a robot around Godzilla's bones, because Godzilla's bones have got to be like harder than diamond.
But they never showed that's how they did it. Like, there was, I don't, Sarah, do you recall there any inference that they used Godzilla's bones as a framework to make the Mechagodzilla?
So you're right. They don't actually say that, but they don't actually say that, but in the concept art and stuff that I know, I mean, yeah, Michael, that's literally the plot of some of the movies. In the concept art, they show that there was supposed to be like a scene where, they really should have. There's supposed to be a scene that they didn't wind up making where Mechagodzilla starts tearing its armor off and starts like, then there's like a Godzilla underneath it and stuff.
See, that would have made some more sense.
Well, like I was saying, it made sense to me because I grew up reading
more of the backstory.
Stuff about how Godzilla's bones are harder than diamond in order to support his mass. And I'm like, well, that's like obvious. You might as well weaponize that. But
sure.
I mean, I don't know, like, it's a conceit for like the idea of a Mechagodzilla that could go rogue. That's an interesting idea. They just, in this movie, they just don't really do anything with it because they wanted that one scene, and then they kind of just move past that and they don't really address it after that.
I do gotta say though, the scene where we're looking at the Godzilla bones, that was pretty cool. I mean, it was ridiculous if you look at it in a real world context, but it was pretty cool.
I love that scene because it's all miniature. It's all it's a miniature of this Godzilla skeleton, and it's really cool.
So aggravating to see people who will suspend their disbelief for something like Marvel movies, but when it comes to kaiju or just a man in a suit, that phrase makes me feral. They simply won't.
I mean,
Matt's
Yeah.
the one who told me man in a suit thing, and I wasn't even going to suggest it. That's how I started to. I don't even know if I would have known that it was a man in a suit without watching a lot of them, a lot more of them. It wouldn't have occurred to me.
They're. I mean, again, it's like once you buy in, and once you're like, okay, I have accepted that. You just want to hit her with a spray bottle?
I could just let her sit in my lap.
No.
We have a cat meowing under the door.
We're not repeating an incident, the same
Oh,
incident
that's
from...
right. Well, that was Remus. That was Fat Boy.
I don't care. No more cats. Anyway, so where the hell was I going with this? Yeah, and the suits look really good. The suit maker, Shinichi Wakasa, I think he did the Kiryu suit. I'm not sure. I know he did the Godzilla suit, and Godzilla looks great in this movie. He's spiky and he's very tall and regal. It's sort of a.
He's got a very. We talked about this after the movie. Jeffrey and I did that. He's got a very angry cat face. When you get the zoom ins of his face, I'm like, that looks like the cat when they're pissed off and they want food.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very good. I mean, I was good. It was just like that's what it reminded me of. But I thought that they had good expressions on it and on Godzilla, and I love the spikes on Godzilla's back. Like those are fucking cool.
They're very cool. They're these are the Monster Arts figures, of course, because I could not get them.
It's a problem.
It's a problem. But I mean, the suits look really good, and they did a really good job with it. And the effects in general in this movie are pretty solid. I mean, there's a couple of moments where it's like, so
the moment that hold Godzilla. Okay. So the moment that Mechagodzilla came in and went boop, and then he went flying off, and that's what I thought you were. Yeah, I figured that was the moment where you were
have to know what the moment is that you started laughing uncontrollably.
Okay. Okay, so I think it was the second fight because they fight and then shit goes sideways and Mechagodzilla starts attacking the people and the buildings and shit instead of Godzilla. But then they go back and they fix Mechagodzilla and then they send him in for round 2. And there was a point, okay, so the fight is happening and Mechagodzilla first fucking flies to the drop point instead of getting dropped by the planes like he did in the first bit. And then he's doing some seriously acrobatic shit that a giant robot like that just couldn't do in real life. Let's be honest. We are not there. We were not there in 2002. We were still not there in 2022. But it was still cool to watch. But at this point, I'm like, look what it's doing. It's doing that's crazy shit that robot can't do. And this is fun. And then I don't even remember. But then, okay, so then there was a point at which Mechagodzilla, Kiryu, got a hold of Godzilla's tail and starts swinging Godzilla around like a fucking lasso. And I lost my shit, and I am giggling, and I'm like squealing, and I've got my jacket stuffed up into my face because I'm trying so hard to not piss anybody off around me, and you can just hear like an intermittent me squeaking intermittently, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
I mean,
and it was so good. Like, no, I mean, like, I wasn't laughing at the scene. I was just like, I couldn't take any more of the over the top action, and I was just like, it was over the top, and it was it's not, because like again, suspension of disbelief, over the top. I knew a robot couldn't do that, and that we don't have robots that are that good, all that stuff. But like, I was like, but these robots can. But then he got like, I was like, the shit that he's doing, and then he picks him up and starts swinging him around by his tail, and I'm like, it was just too much. It was too much. Like I was overstimulated, like the cats that you play with too much, and then they bite you. It was too much.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, again, you're new to this stuff. See, for me, when I saw that scene originally, I was like, oh, okay, they're doing the tail thing. Because
that's just normal.
Because that's a thing from like the old Godzilla movies, from the Showa era Godzilla movies, where is someone getting grabbed by the tail and thrown around? Because that's what happens.
It happens a lot in Ultraman too.
It happens a lot in Ultraman, exactly. It's just at a certain point it becomes a wrestling match, and yeah, I was gonna say, and it's like at a certain point, if it's that sort of movie, you kind of just lean into this childlike glee of just watching these characters just do these moves and stuff, and yeah, you're just having, and it's just having fun with it, because in the 90s, again, there was that marathon that was on YouTube that I sort of had on playing in the background of these 90s Godzilla movies, and those movies have their moments, but they can get a little boring, because at the time they wanted the monsters to show off their powers more, and so you have Godzilla shooting his atomic breath way more, and every monster he's fighting has like 9 different lasers coming out of every orifice, and it's like, and they rarely ever wrestle. Like they don't. Yeah, exactly. And like
it's the finisher. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So swinging by the tail. I mean, King Kong did that in the 1962 King Kong versus Godzilla. Like he grabs Godzilla by the tail, and he does this. He just does one swing though. He doesn't do the roundy round. He just does the one swing move.
The baseball bat.
I think that part of the thing that made me just absolutely lose control of the gig, I was, because like there were parts where I laughed, I giggled, because it was just I was enjoying the hell out of it. The whole movie, I enjoyed the hell out of it. But there was just it was like you said, like the childlike glee thing, like that is exactly it, because I'm just like shitting myself going, oh, he did that thing, oh, he did that thing, oh my God. And then I think that because I was like, they've got big long tails, why isn't anybody grabbing them and stopping them with their big long tails? And then he fucking did it, and I was like, all right, this is amazing. And if I died right now, it would be worth it, because I died happy and laughing. And I actually, like, there was I literally was gasping for air, and that like I was laughing so fucking hard. And I don't think anybody got pissed at me, but like if they did, they didn't tell me, so it was okay. But
I mean,
what movie was it that Godzilla does the whole? He's on his back, just kind of.
Oh, the tail slide.
The tail slide. That to me is the most ridiculous Godzilla I've ever seen.
Godzilla versus Megalon that movie is just an Ultraman episode that's like double length. Like it's just ridiculous. And
okay. We need to pause for a second, because I remembered that we need to play a commercial. So we're going to play a commercial really quick.
We'll be right back.
And then we'll come back.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.
I like that.
That's cool.
Music. Yeah.
Okay, so like I thought Kyron's commercial, and I was like, that's a great commercial. And it was maybe my favorite until I saw Fish and Tony's commercial, and we don't have it on here yet, so like next week maybe, but it's insane. It's so good.
I'll have to get my editor Jacob to throw together a commercial for Matt's Monster Movie Mondays. I think that would
that'd be awesome. Yeah, I have been working on one for us, and I just don't have like time and resources to do it quickly. Otherwise, it would have been done like 2 months ago. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we have a whole host of all the other Agents of Geekdom commercials that we get to do.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But yeah.
So.
But yeah. That's right. J Man did give me Matt the Kaiju Professor, or whatever. But yeah, or Professor of Kaijuology.
Kaijuology. That's a very official sounding word.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, at a certain point, oh, that's right. He uses its breath to fly.
Yeah, and that's all cool. But I don't think we've watched this one yet. So
I've not watched that one yet.
So it's so far. I don't have a comment on whether or not I think it's more ridiculous, because I haven't seen Godzilla versus Hedorah.
Godzilla vs. Hedorah is
Hedorah.
It's fine.
There's many different ways, just like Ghidorah.
Yeah, Ghidorah.
Kinky Dora.
We have a situation over here. Just we have two very large cats, and one of them is on top of a very small scratching tower, and they're trying to attack each other. And it's just like when you hear the inevitable crash, that's all it is. It's fine. I'm sure they're not gonna die.
Good to know.
But
yeah. I'm glad that you were. Pogo bounces on his head for a bit.
What?
I do not know.
So I don't remember him doing that in Megalon.
Okay,
well, we're talking about a different movie today, so we're gonna have to come back.
Godzilla.
Put a pin in that question, Mike, because we'll come back to it when we actually watch that movie. Because we got so many movies to watch.
Oh yeah,
so many movies.
I mean, I have another Godzilla. I have another Godzilla movie set as our next one, but then we're gonna take a break from Godzilla and we're gonna go to a different franchise or we're gonna do something different. But
giant turtles.
Back to this movie.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it's the final battle is fun, and there's a lot of fun stuff in it, and and
it's a big chunk of the movie too. Like it's a solid chunk of the movie is the last battle.
Yeah, because I mean, Godzilla only shows up like as is tradition, he shows up a couple of times.
Okay, we're skipping over one bit that we need. The first fight they had.
Oh yeah,
Oh right, yeah, we probably should have done that already.
With the first fight that they had, as soon as Godzilla roared, it activated the DNA in the DNA computer somehow, and they lost control of Mechagodzilla. It was acting on its own accord.
Right. And that I again, it's one of the things that sometimes frustrates me about certain films where I can see the architecture and I can see them struggling with something. It's one of the reasons why I can't stand the Ant-Man movie, the first Ant-Man movie. I can't stand that movie because there's so much ADR and so much ADR. That's where you go in and you do voiceover stuff.
Got it.
And it's a lot of there's a lot of scenes where they felt the need to bring the actors into the studio and have them do voiceover to try to water down scenes more and more and more, and it makes me actively hate the movie.
Okay, what's that to do with this?
And when in regards to this, again, when I can see the architecture of something and I don't agree with the creative decision because it feels awkward and stilted, when Godzilla shows up, they're like, okay, let's throw Kiryu at him. Let's throw Mechagodzilla at him. And it's this cool scene where he's kind of rampaging and stuff, as is his wont. And then he, like you said, he roars, and then Kiryu shuts down, but then boots back up and is now gone berserk and is starting to act like Godzilla. The problem is that they clearly wanted this scene. The screenwriters wanted this scene where Mechagodzilla was going to act like Godzilla, but in order to get to that scene, they had to write it into where this thing appears, attacks Godzilla. Godzilla doesn't do anything, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
And Godzilla doesn't do that. Like,
Godzilla fights.
He fights. He
dominant based thing.
He anything that he perceives as intruding on his territory, he immediately attacks. In fact, that's one of the reasons why one of the theories in one of the old movies is that the reason why Godzilla keeps coming back to Japan and keeps destroying cities is because Japan used to be his territory millions of years ago, and now he's like, this is covered in bugs, and I'm just gonna wipe them off the face of the earth. and that's just one theory. But anyway, it's a very awkward scene, and I don't mind when you change something or you don't necessarily have to adhere strictly to tradition. Like, you can change a motivation or you can change something about how a movie is structured, but when you don't have anything to replace that with, and you don't have anything to fill that in with, and it's just very nakedly obvious that they wanted this scene and they just didn't know how to get there from a plot perspective. And so they just had to write in a scene where Godzilla just leaves. And it makes it look like he's running away.
Yeah, why don't they just
Okay,
destroy the
yeah.
city together?
I felt in my own reason for that happening. I was just like, oh, I guess Mechagodzilla must have injured him so badly that he had to leave, and I realized, now that's probably ridiculous because he gets pummeled a lot harder in the second fight and doesn't run away. So
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. But I mean, I guess I had I filled that reason in as I was watching the movie because I was like, oh, I guess I just missed him getting very badly injured and needing to run away to heal before coming back and laying the smackdown,
No, yeah, I mean, there are movies where Godzilla will get injured after the first fight. In fact, his Animal Crossing house and hearing. Okay, yeah.
I haven't come back. It's been like 2 years since I played Animal Crossing, so I'm gonna have to go boot up Animal Crossing tonight and see if I hear skittering.
Yeah, bugs.
I've heard of it happening, but now I'm like, oh, that's right.
no.
I forgot I have an Animal Crossing play.
It's one of those scenes where there's only so much backwards bending you can do to justify a creative decision in a plot before you kind of have to realize, like, no, this is just bad writing.
It just feels like that whoever wrote the movie wrote the fight scenes first and then left it to somebody else, like, okay, we'll figure out whatever situation would result in this fight that I've already
right.
And
that actually explains the half-assed love subplot as well, because that's what I thought. It was like, that was, if they were gonna stick it in there, they underwrote the shit out of it. They should have developed it a lot better than they did. If they were gonna interject it, shoehorn it in at all, which I personally think they shouldn't have. But looking at it from the Japanese movies, stick that stuff in there for laughs kind of angle that you mentioned before, I was like, well, okay, that makes sense. Still, I'm looking at it from a Western perspective, but whatever.
I mean, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
But it was, I thought they either should have written it better, developed it better in the writing, or just not had it at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult because with these movies, especially at this time frame, and I mean, really, this was the way it was for a lot of the Godzilla franchise. The writing process was brutally short. Mm-hmm. These movies are made in under a year. And I'm talking from writing, conceptualizing, to filming, to editing. I talk about it all the time on the show, but Behind the Kaiju Curtain by Norman England basically chronicles the entire process of making a Godzilla movie. And I mean, it's basically maybe about a year and that's like from the beginning of the process. And so the screenwriting is something they got to crank out. And it's like,
makes sense.
GMK, they were chronicling the creation of GMK in that book. And that movie had the advantage of the director already having an idea for a movie. And he was, and Kaneko was the director. He was sort of brought in as like this hot new commodity, and he was like, oh, I've always wanted to make a Godzilla movie, or I kind of have an idea for a Godzilla movie. So he kind of had a head start, and it's one of the reasons why that movie is as good as it is.
Right.
But a lot of other Godzilla movies, I mean, sometimes they're written by the same guys who wrote last year's movie. And they're just like, I don't know, Mechagodzilla, I guess. And like,
just like, put all the bad guy names in a hat and just drop Godzilla versus Hedorah.
Yeah, it's so funny because I think, if I might be wrong, but I think one of the people who made the original Mechagodzilla, who originally wrote the first Mechagodzilla back in 1974, I think his rationalization was, there's no other Godzilla, there's no other monsters left. We need to make a robot Godzilla to fight Godzilla. Like, we've burned through everything we had, and now we have to make a robot doppelganger, right?
And now they have like 5 movies.
And they have like 5 Mechagodzilla movies. 6 if you count the City on the Edge of Battle, but that's one of the Netflix anime movies, and people don't like those. So,
all right, continuing with the movie.
So like, with that middle fight, again, it's just an excuse to have Mechagodzilla go on this rampage, and I feel like you could have done that with just a scene of like them running a test.
Training, a training video. Sequence, yeah.
Yeah, they could have had like a test run and had like a little mechanical Godzilla, like a little faux Godzilla, and they just play his roar over a loudspeaker or something. Just a test, a field test.
And then they didn't say how he fixed it. It was just X amount of time has gone by.
Did not address it.
And it's fixed. And almost the exact moment it's fixed, as well as the exact moment it gets revealed, is when Godzilla shows up.
And they actually do address that in the next movie, in Godzilla Tokyo SOS. They do address it, and it does come back around. Sort of, because again, they don't really explain it, but they kind of do, and you could kind of make some assumptions, but and like there's this whole subplot with I actually do like, again, the idea of Akane, the main character, having to deal with her own sense of self-worth, because her perspective is her life, the only worth her life has is as a tool to be used and discarded, which is unfortunately a lot of the perspective of people in the military, and especially the perspective of people in the higher ranks of the military, in that you're
towards the lower ranks.
I'm not saying it's across the board, but we do have an attitude. I'm speaking from an American perspective. I can't speak towards a Japanese perspective on this, but I assume it's not that dissimilar. Is that soldiers are to be used up and discarded, and
I mean that's what the U.S. does.
I mean, America we're notorious for that.
They have the highest suicide rate.
Yeah, and seeing that reflected even just a little bit in this fun movie about robots fighting lizards is kind of a little like, oh shit, all right. And
it was a little out of left field for me. Like, she's suddenly talking about how she's worthless, and that actually, I wanted to bring up the other little storyline going on with the girl, with the daughter.
Yeah,
this little girl is the daughter of a scientist that is the DNA guy, I think. The one who very almost nonchalantly says, "Oh yeah, sure, we could take the Godzilla DNA out of those bones and put them into a robot." And everybody's like, "Yeah, sure, that makes sense. Okay, if you think you can do it." And it's very he's got a daughter, and then he hits on the main character a few times, but he's thankfully not like, he's a little gross, but not super aggressive, and like just and like makes me go, ugh. You know, it wasn't that bad.
Hey, baby.
Yeah, it was a little like, but not. It wasn't one of those ones that like makes me have like a genuinely gut reaction of I hate that person, because that does happen a lot in anime. Weirdly, there's always that one character that I fucking hate because of how gross they are. And thankfully this guy wasn't that guy, because the girl actually is kind of important to the story that happens with the main character and her wrestling with her self-worth.
Yep.
Yeah. She talks about how, no life is worthless. No life, all life has value.
The little girl, he's saying.
The little girl, yeah.
The little girl.
And that's honestly a thing, what we're seeing, and I might be putting a little too much importance on this, but what we're seeing in that exchange is almost a microcosm of the cultural tug of war that, I mean, we already deal with that in America, but in Japan, they deal with it in a very specific way, where there's a lot of social pressure in Japan to perform and to do things a certain way. And it can also be very isolating and very, very difficult. So as a result, Japan has a high suicide rate. And it's for a lot of reasons, and not just strictly an honor thing. I feel like that's really, I feel like that oversimplifies the subject. And like, as we all know now, because of a certain dickhead YouTuber, there is a forest near Mount Fuji that's famous for people going and
that guy
killing themselves, and they've had to put up signs out there that say, life is precious, please don't kill yourself. And And it's like, hey, that's great, but we also need to have a cultural conversation about what's driving people towards this, and
just the pressure to perform.
The pressure
it
to
is,
perform.
Yeah, it is weird how we have such a Japan's a million miles away, and their culture's so different from ours, and like, there's a lot of ways it's not though, and that's one of them. Is like, we don't have value if we can't work and can't produce. If we can't produce for our corporate overlords, then we don't have worth, and we should just kill ourselves. And that is so not what life is, God. And so, you know, like the little girl, she gets a little melodramatic, but she is right. That's the thing. It's like, she is melodramatic, and she's a little girl, so she's allowed to be melodramatic. What is she, like maybe 10 or 12 in there? She's a little girl, and she, you know, like, that's the biggest, craziest thing in her life to have happened, along with the death of her mother. And so she befriends this other adult woman who she's looking up to as another
role model.
Female role model.
Role model. Thank you. That's the word I was after. I was like, not mother figure, because she doesn't do that. She's way less gross about that than her dad is. Like,
it feels more like an older sister or a cousin type relationship than a motherly one, because she treats her a little more equally than you would see like the mother-daughter relationship. There's not that big difference of power in it, and the main character really respects the little girl, especially after that last fight, and saying, you know, thank you for instilling value in me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And like, that's like, the little girl again is dramatic about it, but she's the one who's right, and she's the one that actually went so far as to say, you put Godzilla's DNA into Kiryu. Kiryu's alive too now. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that, because that's right, they did put the DNA. Does that mean Kiryu is alive? And that nobody at any point in this specific movie, I don't know how it gets talked about in other movies that you're supposed to watch along with this one, but they don't at any point say, what is Godzilla there for? There must be a reason Godzilla's here too. What is Godzilla supposed to, what purpose is if everything has a purpose, then what's Godzilla's purpose? And nobody comes up with that either. So
no, it's tricky because there actually is like it is a little bit of a cultural thing with Godzilla. He often doesn't have a reason for existing or a reason for showing up. He's treated like a hurricane. He's just a thing that happens, and you just have to deal with it.
It's a reaction.
It's just
like in Sim City, they have just that. Remember the original Sim City, and they just had tornadoes and floods and hurricanes, and then just random fucking monster attacks.
Yeah, I remember.
Totally based on Godzilla.
I love that game. I love it. Yeah. I wish I could. I need to get a. DOS emulators to play it. Yeah, it's
the whole thing with what was it? Yeah, they kind of talk about it a little bit more in the sequel, and in the sequel they talk about it a little bit more, and they talk a little bit more about Kiryu being alive, and I'll give the broad strokes because I don't want to give too much away, because now we got to watch it because it has Mothra in it. But basically, the Shobijin, the two little twins, they show up and they say, "Hey, so y'all taking Godzilla's bones and making this robot is super fucked up and an affront to the laws of nature. Y'all need to put Godzilla's bones back in the ocean, or else Mothra's going to have something to say about that." And so the characters are like, well, how do we defend ourselves from Godzilla? And then the twins are like, Mothra will do it. Mothra will protect you from Godzilla. And they're like, but Mothra attacked us back in like 1961. And then they're like, it's because she had a reason for doing that. It's like, you guys keep violating nature. You keep violating the cosmic balance of shit, and Mothra keeps having to fix it. Stop doing that.
The tiny people who were in charge of keeping Mothra safe, and then you put them in a tiny little birdcage that didn't even have a toilet in it. Come on. It made them perform too. For what? What did they even get paid for that?
it's so it really is like that's kind of one of the reasons why I like the sequel to this movie a little better, because it actually kind of wrestles with some of that stuff a little more actively, even though I would say that movie really is just the sequel really is just one big fight from like the midpoint, but it's a lot of characters doing a lot of different stuff like all at the same time while there's this fight going on, so it's a little more like you're kind of white knuckling it the whole movie because it's just like shit's just happening.
Well, I thought they were going to have something happen in that one of the final scenes when the main character is talking to Mechagodzilla, like she's acknowledging its existence in a way. And I was hoping that they do a gleam in its eye or slight.
Well, they did a little bit.
I didn't see it. I was
for
watching.
A split second.
I missed it.
When she screams, hold on, I want to see what Rat Star Father says. I'm terrified to see him strike at 1 a.m. Godzilla showing up. That's when Godzilla shows up at the during the hurricane at the beginning, the typhoon at the beginning of the movie. It's a really, again, I love that. It's a banger of a scene. Shut up. But the damn it, oh man, I keep getting derailed. Okay. No, there's a scene where Akane is screaming like, Kiryu, I need your power. Give me more power. And there's a moment where Kiryu's eye sort of gleams a little.
But I was talking about the one on the bridge towards the end of the movie.
That's
what I'm talking. Like towards the end of the movie, she was standing on the high bridge and talking directly to Kiryu, and I'm like, just give us something, some little acknowledgement, but nothing. Which to me typically says, oh well, there's nothing there to acknowledge. It's like talking to a tree.
It's like it's frustrating because there's a little of that in the sequel. Like there's. So which kind of makes it feel like this is one half of a complete story, because even when this movie came out, people were like, this feels like an incomplete story. And I think that was because they had already planned for it to be
a
two-parter. And it's kind of one of the reasons why, again, I like the sequel a little more, because it feels like they're actually kind of wrapping up ideas a little bit better. But yeah, there's just like... This is a common problem with a lot of Godzilla movies, and I say this with nothing but love. There's a lot of really good ideas in a lot of these movies, and they just kind of hard to stick the landing sometime because, again, they're made in like tight budgets, tight turnaround, and nowadays it's a little better because I keep seeing my sleeves on the screen. It looks uneven. But nowadays it's a little better. Like we're getting another Godzilla movie at the end of next year, in about a year, being directed by Takashi Yamazaki, who's a really prolific director in Japan. That movie is done with principal photography. Like they finished it, the filming part of it already, and now it's all in the editing and reshoots phase. So they have like another whole year to get better part of a year to kind of get the movie done, which is the same thing that happened for Shin Godzilla, which we are also going to watch at some point. It's just when you give these movies time to cook, you wind up sometimes getting something really special. And when you don't really do that, you get movies like Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, where it's kind of like a lot of really cool ideas and some really fun stuff, but you feel like they could have gone a little further with a few things. Or you get something like Godzilla vs. Kong, which is just like, fuck it! the lizard blows a hole to the center of the earth.
No, don't get me started on the physics of that movie.
Oh god, it's a cartoon. It's a cartoon.
Red Star Father makes a point of they should have had a double feature, which is exactly what I was thinking as Matt was explaining the whole thing about the sequel. I was like, yeah, I would have stayed for a double feature for that, and then enjoyed the fact that they further explained some stuff that I had questions on.
Well, now I feel like we need to just do Tokyo SONX for the next one of these, just to get it out of our systems, because we should if this all wouldn't have had come together with a little bit more preparation and advance time, advance notice, then we could have made that happen, because you would have had time to have and formulate all those thoughts and then go, wait, we should watch this other movie too before we do this show, and we could have done that. But now we can still do we got
we got all. I mean, like we haven't even started scheduling for 2023 yet. We could just do like Year of Godzilla or Year of Kaiju next year.
I mean, that'll be the time to really bust out. Like, I could do a logo for the show. I could do
after we get back from Japan.
After we get back from Japan.
Oh, by the way, we're going to Japan. Oh my God, I'm terrified. I've never been out of the country.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you like get up and walk around or like stretch your legs on the plane ride, I feel like that's probably the part where you're in the most danger because blood clots, man. They're you don't fucking joke around with blood clots, man.
Well, I mean, Caston's also like justifiably concerned about cultural differences and just being in another country and just like, you know, and I'm gonna be there. You'll be fine, you know.
Papa Frank.
Just Papa Frank's gonna be there. Daddy will be.
No.
Was
that a Freudian slip?
But it's like just do as I do. Like just, you know, just roll the punches because it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
This little gal.
No, you're gonna have fun once you. I bet you get there and you'll be there for less than a day when you forget all about being nervous about it and because you're having such a good time. I bet.
Get used to it.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll have a good. It'll be fine. And the people I know are all super groovy and super chill. You've already met a bunch of them too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, that's right. Hamtaro. There's a little hamster in the movie at one point, and I believe they actively put that hamster in there because this was the era when they were doing co-features with the Hamtaro anime little short films.
I didn't realize that the hamster meant anything. That's hilarious.
It's like the little girl is carrying the hamster when she says like, we should call it Mechagodzilla.
Oh.
Not untrue. Well, we're gonna be in Shinjuku, and you're gonna hear the Godzilla from the Godzilla Hotel scream from across the city, and you're gonna be like, "It's finally happening," because it does roar every hour on the hour.
Oh, nice!
Instead of church bells, you hear
Godzilla. And
I personally would rather hear Godzilla. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. But they were doing these starting with the previous year's film, which was GMK. They started doing these Godzilla Hamtaro co-feature things, and they did a little campaign with them with like little marketing stuff, and did little figures and things. And a lot of Godzilla fans were like, "What?" And but it was Hamtaro was big business at the time. It was very lucrative. And last year the year before, they revived the Godzilla Hamtaro crossover. Yeah, that's right. He's had crossovers with all those characters, and mostly just promotional stuff. They revived the crossover, and I actually got to do the key art for the crossover revival, and I was so happy I got to do that. It was supposed to be an April Fool's thing initially, and then they were like, screw it, let's just do a whole marketing campaign.
And although as wonderful as that is, this was before I did the business side of his thing. They paid him a very small amount of money and gets no dividends, and yet there's still Hamtaro stuff. His Hamtaro stuff at all the Godzilla stores, and he gets.
It's there's nothing wrong with asking for residuals. You're just not always going to get it. But anyway, I actually wanted to send the because apparently a lot of fans are super nostalgic for that, because these movies came out like 20 years ago. There's a lot of fans who are like, oh my god, I remembered like my parents taking me to see the Hamtaro movie, and then we stayed for Godzilla and having my mind blown.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so like there's a lot of these it's such a weird franchise with all of this stuff that comes with it. And I don't know, but yeah, so that was why there was a hamster in it.
Yeah, it was very random, and it was a real hamster, so I would never have I would never have made the connection without the assist. So
Well, so I mean, is there anything else about the movie we wanted to cover, or because I feel like we've covered a lot of it.
I'm ready to give away some
yeah,
fun
I mean,
stuff.
I'm sure that there is probably, but the only other thing, and this is just again, okay, so like things that you know about me if you watch our show, I am a cat lady, I am a plant lady, I am a fish tank lady. And the plant lady thing is what's going to come in here because I kept watching her fucking touch that goddamn mimosa plant over and over and over again, and that kills them, and you need to not do that. If you have a mimosa plant, do not touch it.
Yeah,
Oh
they fold up like that. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
Yes, and that damages them, and it saps their energy, and eventually, if you do that all the time, they will die. And they're kind of, but it's not my personal thing. Like, I don't have one in my collection. I think they're too fussy, and they don't like. There's not a lot of return on the fussiness because they're not like a spectacularly pretty plant. Like it's just a green and it's got leaves. It looks a little ferny.
I love the little pom-pom flowers.
Yeah, and like, but like, it's not. To me, it's not special enough looking to justify the extra work that it requires. Because sometimes if you just like, she was carrying that plant around, and sometimes it really did look like it was dying, and I was like, oh, and I think that was supposed to correspond with her moods. Because like when she was sad, it looked like the plant, and they would do these like extreme close-ups on the plant and stuff. But then she kept touching it. So yeah, and I was just like the plant lady and the crazy plant lady in me was like, please stop doing that. Why? And I did start looking, and then I didn't finish looking because I got distracted because ADHD shiny things. But I started because I wondered if that plant is. I assume because it's a relatively common plant in this country to keep as a house plant. And I figure it must be a common plant in Japan to keep as a house plant. No. And I wondered if there was any kind of cultural significance to that plant, like how, like here, poinsettias are Christmas plants, and something like that. But also the connection that the main character made with the little girl is that the little girl was carrying around this plant, and the main character was like, "Oh, I had one of those when I was little too," and then she says, "Don't keep it forever."
Yeah, I thought about that too.
That's kind of a mistranslation. I think the intent was she was like,
"Shocker."
What? Oh,
it's a shocker that there was a bad translation. Yeah,
I think it was a mistranslation, or just it's sometimes hard to just plants were harmed in the making of this film. Oh no! I think that it was a mistranslation because she was just saying, "Hey Ray," she was just saying like, don't keep it around forever. Like don't
make it your best friend.
Don't make it the only thing in your life.
Yeah, like, yeah, and that would have. Yeah, that would have made it a lot better, and because at the end, the little girl comes to greet the main character post Godzilla fight, and she's like, "Where's your plant? Where's your plant?" And the girl just kind of smiles at her, like, "I got rid of it. Like I threw it in the dumpster for you."
I felt like she just left it at home.
She just left it at home.
Yeah, and I said, yeah, because like she did carry it around a lot, and I was like, that's a weird thing to do with a house plant. But thankfully, that with understanding that was a mistranslation, that makes it a lot less weird. And
there's just Japanese also just has very little one-to-one with English. So there are certain things where it's like, I mean, shit. I was watching a Japanese Transformers series the other day, or just a clip from it, and there's a phrase that this bad guy uses when the good Transformers come into his base and they start fighting, and he screams at them like, the translation is, "You dare enter my house," or something like that. And then there's a note, there's like a translation note where it says the phrase he's actually using is, "You dare come into my house with your shoes on," sort of thing, which is it's an insult. It's disrespectful.
Yeah, and that's actually, I think, one of the more common things that Americans know about Japanese people is that you're supposed to take your shoes off before you go into someone's house. Otherwise, you're disrespectful.
It's again, just
find your socks. You'll be fine.
It's not that I'm gonna forget. It's just my feet are very sensitive. I walk around my house with shoes on. Like I have to carry around my own
this is the great thing. A lot of the houses have a little lineup of flip-flops for you to use.
Yeah, can you bring your own flip-flops?
People use
Can you bring?
them.
So I think sometimes they just have guest flip-flops. Like,
Yeah,
just
are you
like
allowed to? Like, can you purchase a new pair of slippers of your own and
Yeah,
then
you
just
can
keep
just
them in
bring
your
in your
purse
own,
and
carry it in
then
the bag.
yeah,
You
and
Look at my
I've got
backpack.
my own. Yeah,
there you go. See, so we solved the problem.
exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. The mistranslation and the indirect translations, like I can imagine that's kind of a nightmare for people translating and like imagine translating American English shit into Japanese and
so
stuff. I
many
mean, like
idioms
like
and-
English is a fucking insane language too.
Well,
Like,
it's not
I mean,
hard.
what's Japanese? That's the thing about Japanese, like Mandarin, Korean, like those. They're not as fucked up as our languages. They're better than our languages because they developed without influence from 1,000 other languages.
Well, it's also. I have plenty of anecdotes from people who learn Japanese, and you're just like, this doesn't make any fuck. What the fuck is this? There's a stand-up comedian in Japan. He's a white guy, and he does stand-up for Japanese audiences, and it's mostly him complaining about learning Japanese, and they love it. They're like,
yeah.
oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. That doesn't make any damn sense. And
there's
anyway,
plenty about the various Asian languages that is weird when you're trying to learn it being a native English speaker. But yeah, like there's a lot about English that is so fucking weird and doesn't make sense. Like other languages have like rules, and English has rules except if, or but just this one word is different. It's I can understand why non-native English speakers get so frustrated trying to learn English.
Never mind the fact of like the absolutely thankless job of not just I wore shoes in the wrong house and now I'm running from ninja assassins. It's not Star Trek. Like she's not gonna have the wrong shirt on in the wrong temple, and then you're getting sacrificed to a sentient volcano. Like
do y'all know what he's talking about?
If you watch Lower Decks, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's such a thankless job of like being a subtitler, which means you're also a translator.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Toshi over in Japan is the Ultraman subtitle guy, and he has to find little equivalencies in English that aren't like exactly what it is in Japanese, but it's like the closest approximation.
Does he ever ask you if you can help him come up with an English?
Toshi's also like a native English speaker too. Like he speaks both languages perfectly, so he's fine. Although every now and then I remember he asked me he was like, "Do you know what this is?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what that is." And he's like, but anyway, but there's and never mind the fact of like dubbing. Like dubbing itself is such an unbelievably thankless art because, again, especially if you're doing it from Japanese, you've got to like on the fly really come up with like, all right, what's a more interesting way of translating this? Or sometimes you just don't have the time. You've got to dub something within days of it coming out just to get it out onto your streaming service nowadays. I mean, it used to be stuff like certain anime would get like really solid dubs, and it's because they would have to kind of rewrite them a little bit. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, yay! I mean,
we covered all the big points on it. I mean, we could talk for a couple more hours on all the little stuff. We covered all the big stuff. So, yeah, we have shit to give away. Let me put up the thingy, and everybody who's on here, everybody who is still watching, make sure that I put your name in. And I'll give you a minute to make sure that your name is there, because
just to let people know what these are.
Yes, go through them.
Yes.
So this is a
solo here.
This is a Super 7 Godzilla, and this is actually like the most interesting figure in this line. It says Godzilla 57. Now there was no Godzilla movie that came out in 1957. What this is I believe one of the only action figures ever made of a Godzilla suit that was sent to America for an edited alternate version of the second Godzilla movie from 1955.
That was hard to follow.
All right,
Jesus
hold on.
Christ.
They were going to make an Americanized version of Godzilla Raids Again, which is the second Godzilla movie.
Okay.
They were going to call it the Volcano Monsters, and they made a separate Godzilla suit. Toho made a separate Godzilla suit and sent it to America, and that suit never appeared in any movie.
They made a figure.
But they made it. But this is I think they made like a model kit of that suit. But this is a figure of that version of the character, which is a very specific reference. The other thing I have is this is kind of a Godzilla children's book, but of course it's all in Japanese. This is from 2019. I think it's clearly Godzilla, and then it's something Daikaiju something, and it's just like a cool like cardboard photo book of all these cool moments from the Godzilla series, and it's like got like a little spread for each movie, and it's just really fun. And I figured, I have so many damn photo books of Godzilla movies. I don't need this one.
Are you sure I'm not allowed to be in this drawing?
I'll send you some Godzilla stuff. And then lastly, I got this hoodie from who made this? I think I got this at FYE. They have like exclusive Godzilla stuff, and it's just this. It's kind of got a simple front, but then it's got this really cool back of like this
very like 80s,
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah, aesthetic. It says Godzilla, and it said, comes from the depths of the ocean to bring terror to the world. And so
Nice.
I thought it would be fun to do a little giveaway. And
Yes, and in case I haven't said it enough times, thank you so much for
sure.
being the provider of the free shit we were giving away today, because we were kind of going, well, what goes with kaiju that we have that we can give away?
Well, maybe someday we will have stuff to give away.
I maybe. I mean, that would be. But I mean, in the meantime, though, for now, this is good. But yeah, maybe in the future. Radstar Father said my pea brain is so entranced by the sparkliness. Of
I
the
know,
cover
right? I
of
love
that
it.
book. It is. I didn't even notice, but you can totally see when I pulled you up in the solo.
Yeah.
I could totally see how the hollow glitter stuff.
Yeah.
So okay. Nobody said that their name wasn't on there, so I'm gonna go ahead and spin the wheel.
Yeah, whatever.
Are we ready?
Do it. What are we doing for first?
Oh, we'll do the action figure first.
The action figure first.
Action figure, yeah, for the action figure.
Oh,
Matthew.
Alzamora, nice.
Yay.
Congratulations, Matt. How are we doing this?
I mean,
Yeah, so Matthew, you need to message us to let us know what your mailing address is so that we can mail you this stuff. But just send a excuse me.
Not have any over there?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's okay.
All right. Don't die.
So send a message to either Matt's page or your Unlikely Heroes Studios page so that we know what your address is, so that we can send you your new Godzilla toy. And then we are going to remove Matthew's out. So now we're gonna draw for the book. Are we ready?
I really hope Radstar Father gets it. Oh, Michael.
Mike wins! Yay!
Michael Dolan.
I mean, Lori probably already has your address, but just in case.
Michael.
Because like you've been there since before Lori's been there, right? So I'm sure. But
wow.
Lastly, it's the hoodie.
And then one more thing to give away, the hoodie. So I gotta get. I'm trying to click it on the stream screen instead of click it on the actual screen that the wheel's on. 'Cause I'm super smart like that. All right. Let's go.
Wheel of Morality. Turn. Tell us a lesson. Rondominos.
I don't know what Rondominus.
Rondominus.
It's a very good name because it's well to be interpreted.
Yeah.
Multiple ways.
Very Latin.
So yeah, so send a message. I'm gonna say send a message to the Facebook page if you send it to Unlikely Hero Studios, because the other social medias, they don't really do a good job of alerting us when we have a message. So try to use Facebook for that.
Yeah,
But if you follow Matt, you can also send it directly to Matt.
Me on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. Just Facebook. Just DM me. I check everything like every few hours.
Yeah, it's a problem.
So Matthew and Ron Dominus. Is that? Are we saying it right? Tell us if we're saying it right. And then Mike. Yes, everybody, make sure we have your addresses. And we'll get, like, if you send it to us, we'll make sure Matt has it. And if you send it to Matt, then I'm not going to worry about it.
Although it is rainbow, like your hair.
Yeah, and then Caston's going to send that stuff out tomorrow, so you'll get it probably this week.
Yep. If I get your address tonight.
Yeah. We really, we appreciate y'all joining in. It's a fun time.
Yes. You can DM Matt.
DM me on
whatever
Twitter, or
contact
Instagram,
way
or something.
Just fine.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
It's for those who don't know, it's Spankzilla85 on Twitter. It's very mature. And it's Mattzilla85 on Instagram. And I have a Mastodon now, just in case Twitter implodes. Mastodon is a new, like, kind of not Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and stop me if I'm wrong here. Didn't Elon call it Masturbate to Don or something like that, because he's super mature and he can handle, like, he's got a very thick skin and he can totally handle that people are leaving his platform for competitors' platforms. So
I'm just so immediately like, I run an yay. I
appreciate that y'all are watching this. This is fun.
I run a progressively minded electric car company. That's totally the audience of weirdo loner conservatives that I'm courting right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, yay! But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I have so much stuff I could say about Elon. Mostly, I mean, if nothing else, if you're CEO of 4 companies, maybe you're not doing that much. Maybe your job isn't that hard. You could be CEO of 4 different companies.
I'm just so like, I get fired up while I'm out running errands or something, and I will actually just do a podcast of one screaming in my car because I get frustrated about stuff like Elon and whatever. But it's totally not a mental illness.
It reminds me of Patton Oswalt in his, like, when he gets on one of his specials and he talks about how he just yells at people on Twitter and that's his whole life, and it reminds me of that a little.
We saw him live in a couple of months back, and he took down a heckler so hard, so fast. It was great. It was really good.
There are comedians that I think that I have the ability to fluster. I'm probably wrong, but, like, in my, my cocky brain, I'm like, they're not that great. They're not that smart and clever and fast. And I would never, ever in a million years try to go after Patton Oswalt. He would fucking destroy me. He is too good at it. He's been doing it for too long. You are not better than Patton Oswalt. You are not going to win. Don't do it.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and recount it because it was such a moment. It was he was talking about Joe Rogan, and it was like, and it was funny because he was actually being really nice, because apparently he's known Joe Rogan for a long time, and he's like, I've known him for a long time. He's a really sweet guy. The problem is he was given like $2 million or $20 million or whatever, and that's enough to drive anyone insane. And then there's a guy in the audience who was just like, Joe's show is funnier. And then Patton was like, but your money's in my pocket. And it's like, damn. And then the guy kept going, but he was just unintelligible. And Patton was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care. We're just moving on.
Just don't do it. Really, I I love that there's anybody out there that truly believes, because I say, oh yeah, there are some comedians I could definitely shut up, and like that. As soon as I actually found myself in the audience of their show, I would be shutting the fuck up pretty quick. I'm positive of that. And I don't that's their job. That's what their job is, to take criticism and throw it back in your face. Like, why would you think that you're better than them at it?
Well, a lot of people don't.
You gotta go to open mic nights with noobs to do that.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't think about it. Like, I mean, there's a thing on Twitter. It was this young woman who was talking about basically living in Trump's America and stuff. And there were some people in the back of the oh yeah, that's a good point. There's people in the back of the comedy club that she was at who were just yelling at her about Trump and about how, like, you know, they were clearly Trump supporters, and she was just like, "You're just giving me material," like. And then they threw a beer can at her, like a full beer can, and she had just turned away, and it went whew, and she's like, "Whoa!" And she's like, "All right," and she reaches down.
Seriously, and that's at a comedy club.
She killed the beer.
You know, they spent like $15 on that beer.
And then she's like, "What the hell?" And then I heard someone from the back of the room say, "I am never going out with you guys again."
Good.
Which is such a good moment.
Wow, that's amazing.
But yeah, real quick, I did want to plug something to the Godzilla fans, whoever's still watching. I got this in the mail, which I'm really excited. Where's the top? I got this in the mail, which I'm really excited about. There it is. I got my Hedera shirt from Ghost X Ghost.
Yeah, I'll hold it. You can talk about it.
It's this beautiful Hedera the Smog Monster shirt from Ghost X Ghost, which I recently did a shirt design for them for Baragon, who y'all remember from GMK. You're good. You can take it down. And I just got this in the mail. It was one of the last ones they had. Like, they had a couple left over from their previous sale, because they do those timed limited sales. And I was just so happy to get it, because I thought I wasn't going to get one. And
well, you made it.
No, I didn't make this one. I made the Baragon.
Oh, got it.
What?
When they made the they played the shorts before the actual movie, Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, and I was like, oh, that's the
Smog Monster. Yeah, that was a short film they did for last year's Godzilla Day, and then this year they did the Godzilla versus Gigan short film, which is also awesome. Yeah, Gigan over here, because this is the one given to me by Newt in Colleen. Thank you, Newt. I love my little Gigan. But yeah,
it's very shiny.
That's enough Godzilla stuff.
Is it though?
What?
Never.
I said, is it though?
It's never going to be. There is one time in my life, and my Hedera shit is on the way on the wait list for Baragon. Oh wow, okay, well, glad to know there's a wait list for Baragon. Thank you.
Business, yeah.
Thank you. The fuck was I gonna say?
Godzilla stuff.
Yes. There's one time in my life where I said, and I remember I was at a G-Fest and I think I was just getting burned out. I was just real tired, and I was lying and that was a year where I was sleeping on the floor, because we had a room full of like 6 or 7 people. And I'm just like, I'm just on the floor, lying, just trying to get my spoons back. And I heard my friends over here, they were talking about Mechagodzilla or something. And I thought to myself, Jesus Christ, stop fucking talking about Godzilla for 5 minutes. And that's the only time in my life that I've ever I got to that point where I'm just like, okay, I'm a little Godzilla'd out for the moment. Now I can't afford to be.
Well,
Anyway.
that was a lot of fun too, and I really genuinely did enjoy the shit out of that movie. And
Good.
To anybody who might have been in that particular theater that I was in, when you heard me squeaking, it wasn't because I was making fun. I just
yourself.
I was like, yeah, like my cup of excitement overflowed. So
But real quick, Caston, I didn't really get your final thoughts on the movie after seeing it.
Oh, I mean, I liked it. I wish that they would have made a few decisions with the story, especially get rid of that love thing that just did not fit at all.
The big thing that we forgot to say was the ending. The ending was a draw. It was a draw. Like nobody won, and the main character says it was a draw.
Yep.
Well, Okay.
I was like, wait, how can it be done if the monster is still alive at the end? And then, but then, like the way that she explains it, and then also knowing that there's a sequel.
Well, I mean,
I was like, oh, I guess they have mutual respect for each other. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, that was a thing. Like, and Casson talked about this, so it may be true for anyone who hasn't seen the movie before. It's really dark and it's hard to see in that final shot. But Godzilla has this giant chest wound.
Yeah, I didn't even
He has
see
this
it.
giant bloody gash chest wound where he took the hit from the Absolute Zero cannon.
Which we
Zero,
didn't talk
yeah.
about.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well,
And-
the Absolute Zero is just another weapon that didn't work on Godzilla. So, but
Yeah.
I didn't see that. I didn't see any wounds on Godzilla.
It's something that like you kind of have to. It's weird. They don't really focus on it, and it's like this big chest wound, and in the next movie he shows up and he has like a scar across his like this scar on his chest
From that.
from that attack, and
they should have put more attention on the wound.
well, he's like wreathed in shadow in that scene, even though it's like the
And he's half in
sun's
the ocean.
It's half in the ocean, so
Yeah.
it's just an awkwardly filmed scene. But yeah, no, I mean they injured him, and that was something that
enough that he stopped fighting, which then explains. You said that when Mechagodzilla turns in the first fight between Mechagodzilla and Godzilla, and Godzilla just leaves, and that's not what Godzilla does.
right.
Which I was like, so I was like, well, then why did Godzilla leave in the last fight and they didn't fight to the death? But that actually makes more sense, knowing that the Absolute Zero did actually damage him very badly, because we didn't get to see that.
It's kind of unclear. Like, as a fan, I'm taking in every detail of the scene, but like if you don't really know where your eye's supposed to go, it's just kind of an awkwardly filmed scene. And then the next movie, he gets real fucked up, and he still does not retreat. So it's just
Nice.
it's we gotta watch the next one now. Fine, fuck it, we'll do it live. All right.
After you get back
All
from
right,
Tokyo.
it's been 2 hours of us yelling. So
Yes. And yes, and we can, and like we do every time. I just plan for a double-sized episode when we do a monster movie, because I'm like, we're gonna have so much to talk about, and it's fun, and we always get lots of people that show up to listen to us yell about Godzilla, so it's fine, right? It's fine. I'm more than happy to double the episode for you guys.
Thank
So,
you.
but yes, let's watch the second one, and then and we'll stay tuned and watch for the next, because we tell like I'm gonna do now. At the end of every episode, I tell you what we're doing next week, so you'll know from that. You'll know from, if you follow our YouTube channel and stuff, like you'll see the banner pop up when we do schedule another Matt's Monster Movie Monday. I was shortening that to MMMM, and then I realized that we also shortened Miss Medusa's Monstrous Menagerie as MMMM, and I was like, oh, I can't do that now.
Ironically.
Yeah, there's too many M's. So much. And then do you remember the very first monster one that we did that was Maddox and Matt and Mike and somebody?
Yeah.
Who the hell was the other M?
I don't remember. It was Maddox, Mike, Matt, because Lori was in that.
Yeah, everybody was there, and we had
I don't remember.
well,
remember.
whatever. I'll go back and look at it, and then I'll forget to tell you anyway. So
Well,
next week, D Fish is coming, and we're going to talk about how queer is not an agenda, because we've heard some shit in the news and we're tired of it, and so D wants to have a platform to bitch a little bit, like, don't we all? Like, we're gonna, and so we said, yeah, we'll give you a platform, so she's gonna come and she's gonna bitch a little bit. So that's what we do, and I'm gonna join her because I have things to say on that issue too.
Thoughts?
And so many thoughts, and lots of things, lots of F words to say too, because that's what I do. That's kind of my thing at this point. Y'all know that I swear a lot, so whatever. So yeah, that's what we're doing next week, and then at some point in the future, in the reasonable future, we will do the next Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. The sequel to this movie, the sequel.
Tokyo SOS.
Tokyo SOS.
Yeah, and it'll definitely be after we get back from Japan, because oh my god.
I know that's coming up pretty fucking
We will
quick,
be
so
in
I can't
Japan,
imagine.
November 20th through December 6th, and that's U.S. date.
Yeah. And
That's
yeah.
That's
So we got
like
about-
that's like basically tomorrow. You guys got to get ready.
I've already got the first bag packed, so
Yeah.
Wow, look at you.
I have you a commission plan, so we should go. But yeah,
Definitely.
thanks again, everybody.
So,
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope you join us next week, and I hope you definitely join us for the next Matt's Monster Movie Monday. And in the meantime, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Matt and Caston, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye.
Bye, guys.